What's going on, traders? It's Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is April 22nd, 2021. Please click the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to talk about the price action in the indices. Today was one of the weirdest days that I have seen in so long in the markets. We'll go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors. We have a lot to talk about there. We will talk about some of my trades for the day, and then we'll wrap up with some options order flow. Before we jump in, quick first disclaimer, nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, so let's jump in here. And let's take a look at what we had for today's price action. So if we pull this up, so for our box scores today, we had the S&P 500 finish down 0.91% as measured by the SPY ETF. We had the Nasdaq QQQ finish down 1.21%. We had the IWM small caps, which were our leader for the day, down 0.41%. And we had the Dow Jones finish down 0.93%. So if we look at this price action here, we're looking at our S&P 500 daily chart. You can see that heading into OPEX, we had essentially like our blow off top here. And then ever since then, we've just kind of been chopping around, kind of grinding sideways. And you can see here, this is a lot of back and forth price action. So it was like, all right, we had our two little pullback days and super bullish day yesterday. And now today, it looked like we were going to soar on to new heights here. But then we had that headline drop about halfway through the day, saying that long-term capital gains rates were going to be going higher. And essentially people that earn over $1 million a year, they're going to be taxed at higher rates. So if we look at the action today, let's go a little bit deeper. We're going to go to the hourly chart. And then I think first what I want to do, so if we look here, you can see, so earlier in the week, we hit this top at 41.83.5. I was actually short up here. And then we ended up coming down and we sort of found a bottom here at this weekly point of control level of around 41.22, spot 25. And you can see that was where we fell into support. Dip buyers came in and auctioned us higher. So this is where we were today. It was like, all right, nothing too bad. This right here, we had a little dip on the open, nothing too crazy. Dip buyers came in, all was looking great. And this is at, around noon. So this is around lunchtime. All of a sudden, a tape bomb comes out. And I remember I was trading, at the moment, I was trading some Tesla calls. I was trading some other, stocks as well. I like to keep an eye on the market breadth. And I just remember I was looking and I was like, okay, we're looking okay. All of a sudden, the breadth numbers just went so off. And at that point, that's where I was like, okay, I'm stopping out of a bunch of things. I don't know what's going on. I actually didn't even know that there was a headline when I first started stopping out of things, because I was just like, the breadth going down like that, that doesn't make any sense. So let me get out of all my short-term stuff. But yeah, we ended up really getting hit hard here. Let me just go to the 5-minute. That way we can see, what the timing was. Yeah, so we got hit. So I remember in our pre-market session talking about, hey, if we get a pullback, we can expect potentially pulling back to this, around 41, 47 level, somewhere around there. And we actually just dipped to it so quickly. Look at how much volume there was in this 1 5-minute candle. It was incredible. So what I'm thinking happened is, I know a lot of people are like, why are people selling their stocks on that headline? And to be honest, the headline is really just a trigger for a lot of these algorithms. So I'm assuming, I get that really is a bad headline with higher tax rates. But I'm assuming all these algos, just sold at the same time. And we got this huge, dump on the market here. And you can see we kind of trended down. We tried to rally and really couldn't. Yeah, that was sort of the story of the day in terms of that headline. And now, like, going into the close, it's like super ambiguous. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, what's going to happen? Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, the one thing is we found support at the same level twice in a row. So if we look here, to be honest, it's very tough, at least for me, to initiate a short position down here because this is essentially, we're in support here. And you can see the market found support at the same exact level. This 41.22 has pretty much held. So yeah, it's tough to try to like short into support. I think, for me, in order to really like get short again or really just cut down all my positions, I think we would have to get a break, below this 41.06. If we got that, we closed below that, that's where I'd be like, oh gosh, like this is not that good. But one other thing that's kind of interesting. So I drew this downward trend line once we started our descent here, earlier in the week. Then it was like, okay, within like 2 trading days, all right, boom, we just blasted right out of that. No big deal. These trend lines, they just stay on my screen. And I notice that we fell right back into that downward trend channel. So yeah, tomorrow is going to be very interesting. I think the next couple days in the market are really going to be telling for us. So we'll see what happens. If we flip over to the Nasdaq, I'm going to go to my daily chart. Spent a lot of time talking about that, but I just think that's important. If we go to our Nasdaq here, you can see, at this point, the Nasdaq did get pretty overbought. So you can see, incredible run here for about 2 weeks. Now we've come in, we've had a lot of chop. And now this 20-day simple moving average is actually getting, it's catching up to price. So if we can just consolidate sideways, that wouldn't be the end of the world. And then this catches up to price and, FANG names report earnings next week and all is good. Not a problem here. But let's take a look. Yeah, you can see the Qs also, closed right around that same level they found support. So not much to go off of. The one index that I think was really the most interesting, and this is why I say like today was one of the weirdest days of price action I've seen in a while, the Russell. Oh my gosh, and the Russell's barely down. Yeah, it closed in the after hours, it's only down 0.18%. Yeah, the Russell broke everyone's expectations yesterday, formed a really nice bullish candle. And then today it was sort of like on the warpath, like, oh, maybe it'll actually break out of this sort of like sideways trend it's been in. I actually had some IWM calls, and thankfully I closed them when we hit this target up here at this 22.62.5. So I sort of lucked out there, but it was interesting because IWM, to be honest, like to me, like this one shouldn't be rallying right here. Like we already had the recovery trade. It sort of lost its trend. I don't think anybody was really expecting it. So for me, I was like, okay, let me see if we'll actually like break out of this weekly value area high and start, just ripping higher. And I saw it was like clockwork where IWM failed. And it was like, okay, just a little failure. It was nothing big at all. And I just remember for a split second thinking to myself, this would be like a pretty logical point. IWM just kind of like blowing off to the upside for, like a counter trend or, like downward auction to begin. And that was just kind of like a thought that briefly went into my mind. And then it was like, boom, we just got blasted by, just that crazy headline and really just that volume that came in, that one little spike. What's interesting though is we got that huge volume spike around lunchtime, but then it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like, and then they just kept selling into the end of the day. That's what I think is unique with all these indices. It was really 1 hour of intense selling. And I very instinctively, I just stopped out of a bunch of positions that were short-term options when this started happening. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to get off the desk. So I went to get some lunch because I was looking and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to divine or have any edge on, what the market's going to do into the close, whether it's just going to like rip back to green or, really fall apart. At that point, you're just interpreting a headline and, all that. So I took a break and went for a lunch, and that actually really helped me. But yeah, so we had the Russell and then the Dow Jones. You can see here. Oh my gosh, yeah, we're already 10 minutes in. Let me see. All right, we're going to go through the rest very quickly. Our YM. Yeah, you can see also finding support at the same spot that it did earlier in the week. So let's take a look here. We're going to pull up. Let me see. Where is this? Okay. Yeah, so this is our breadth from earlier today. I started tracking this, and it's super helpful where you can just see the advancers and decliners, just in real time. And earlier in the day, it was like SPY was like a little bit off. Some of these were. SPY flipped positive. The Qs were positive for breadth. IWM was killing it. I think the Dow is kind of struggling a little bit, but it is what it is. But yeah, these all just flipped very quickly. It was like SPY, I looked at it and there was maybe like 300 positive names. And I looked, and in the span of like me just turning my head, it was like, oh my gosh, we're down to 150 from 300. So that was my signal to like, something's not really right here. But yeah, the breadth you can see was very negative for the day. If we pull up our FinViz heat map, you can also see, very similar, poor breadth throughout the day. The one group that really sticks out, the semis. So we had earnings that came out from, I believe it was Lam Research. They beat expectations, great report. I was long Applied Materials, and we just got such a terrible reaction to the positive earnings report in the semis. So like if you pull up, I believe SMH is the one that I look at the most. But yeah, the semis, and this has really nothing to do with that little flash crash tape bomb. The semis were weak. And that's not really a good look if it's like bullish engulfing candle. This is just a pullback within a bullish trend. Then you just pretty much immediately bearish engulf that. So with the semis, I know a lot of people are really bullish on the semis, and there's a lot of good headlines about them, semiconductor shortage. But when I see this, I'm like, if this group really doesn't want to lead, I don't want to push it to the bull side. So I actually stopped out of my Applied Materials earlier today. But yeah, you can see poor breadth here. The other thing why I see the price action was so weird today was, so we had like short covering, crazy rallies in a lot of the SPAC names. And then we also had, an incredible rally in the solar names. And that's another one where you kind of look at what happened and it's like, was there really like any rhyme or reason for that? Or was it just price action that was just kind of like doing its thing? But yeah, this group's really got going. Some of the names, really went crazy today. And then I noticed like also very weird. Where is this? So yeah, it looks like it repaired itself. But as soon as the market closed, I looked at the solar ETF. And it was just like, boom, huge red bar. And it was all the way down to like 85. But yeah, it looks like it righted itself. So that's not really that weird. Okay, so we have that. Let's take a look at our sectors and style factors really quick. So yeah, so you can see here, earlier in the day, this looked a lot better. But by the end of the day, we had biotech, which is still green. Chinese internet names, KWeb. And these two sectors, and really this ARCG as well, they've all been really under pressure. So it's kind of making me think like, this day of the past 2 days where it's like small caps are super strong out of nowhere. So are Chinese internets and these SPACs that have completely blown up. It makes me think like maybe it was just short covering or somebody taking down exposure to shorts. That's why we were seeing that. But we'll have to see in time. And you can see, a lot of bright red areas. Blockchain. So Bitcoin is definitely not leading the market anymore. And Bitcoin and these crypto names, I've typically used them as a leading indicator for the rest of the market. So Ethereum, which I just recently purchased, is doing very well, but Bitcoin is actually not. And I'm definitely not like a cryptocurrency expert. I own some Bitcoin and I own some Ethereum. But yeah, this is definitely not risk on in Bitcoin. I could go on about Bitcoin, but Yeah, it's breaking its trend. And this is an asset where, as much as most people like to equate it to like a religion and, oh my gosh, we're going to change the world and like all this stuff, I think for a lot of investors, it really is a momentum asset. That's how I use it. So like now that we've broken this level, if we don't get beyond here, I'll be stopping out of my Bitcoin. I purchased my Bitcoin, a couple months ago for about 45,000. And yeah, I'll just cut it right off. I purchased some at like 10K, some at like 20K, and my latest purchase at like 45K. So yeah, I'll just cut that. But yeah, Ethereum is pretty strong. Oh my gosh, I guess not. Wait, what? I see it's down 5.04%. Wait. Yeah, there's a lot of like wonkiness going on here. I don't know how comfortable I feel. Let me see. Okay, I don't know what it's saying. But yeah, like this too, like Ethereum had a great run today, but look at this candle. That's not confidence inspiring. Yeah, so let's see, we have that. And then our style factors, you can see, right across the board. And what's kind of interesting here is high div, low vol is actually our worst performing style factor for the day. A lot of times when the market's very risk off, that one will perform really well. So I'm definitely going to take a look at some of those names tonight. And you can see high beta perform very poorly as well. Those are the ones that really stuck out. International momentum, I'm guessing because the Chinese names were strong, remain pretty strong, and then defensives as well. Alrighty. Now let's take a look. I'm going to pull up some of my trades for the day. And today was definitely, pretty mixed. This honestly could have gone so much worse. I think I got, I don't want to say lucky in some areas, but I just happened to take some targets that really helped. So you can see here, PLBY. I entered this the other day for $36. And PLBY at some point was just kind of like losing its steam. And I was like, how greedy do I want to be with this one? So I stopped out of this one for a really nice winner. Yeah, and you can see it ended up closing down like 6%. So I stopped out at like $45. And it closed like 42. VUZI was another one where it just looked like it was running out of steam. So I closed this one as well. So like I closed this one out for a nice winner also. I said, not liking the way the candle in this name is forming, lock this in, you can always revisit. So those were like two of my big ads when we had, the dip a couple days ago. VUZI as well. So when I entered this trade, my target was like, I'm looking right for that $30 mark again. But you always have to just be cognizant of what the market is giving you and what the market's showing you. And what I saw today was VUZI tagged that 20-day. And then from there on out, it was just sold throughout the day. So I got out of this one for $22.93. And you can see this one, yeah, closed at $21.88. So locked that one in for a nice gain. Then, yeah, so I had some things that worked very well, other things that were very problematic. So I just tried to close out the things that were problematic, like applied materials. This one, I was expecting like, all right, maybe we're going to get a follow through and really rip. I stopped out of this one for $13.50. I'd paid $15.35. Just said I'm not liking this reaction. And that was in the morning. I took some Facebook calls, DocuSign, Dish. I was really being aggressive this morning. I closed out my IWM June calls. I put these on yesterday. Had a nice winner in this one, paid $9.47. I was able to close it out for $10.80. This was pretty much like right before the that like mini like flash crash happened. The other thing where I got, very fortunate to have closed it out, Amazon. I had a call spread expiring tomorrow. And I closed it out for a small winner. I had paid $4.86, closed out for $5.30. And I said here, odds are I would win this one, but I don't want to carry that much risk that all rides on one single day and a half of price action. And I ended up lucking out because Amazon, got hit by that, selling pressure. So I would have been, deep underwater on that and kind of like hoping that it comes back for me tomorrow. So yeah, that worked out. Closed one out for a winner. But then, yeah, I day traded Tesla, and this one was looking fantastic. Entered for $9.60. I took one target at $11.02. But this was where that flash crash happened. So I remember like I was watching my Tesla call that I had left. I had half on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to take a target at like 1160 and just close this thing right out. And all of a sudden, my call option went from like 1160 to like 9 and change very, very quickly. So I just stopped out of it because I was like, this just doesn't seem right. And that's where I noticed like we started having that flash crash, and I just started stopping out of things. So I closed out the remainder of my Tesla. I had some calls in Boyd Gaming, closed these out for a nice winner. I paid $260, closed out for $370. And then I just stopped out of some things. I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I don't know what's going on right now, so I'm just going to stop out. And this was luckily before the selling like really, really took hold. So I stopped out of my Facebook for $15. I paid $16.75. My Dish calls, I stopped out of those as well for essentially a scratch. Lost 3 cents on those. Then as we got closer to the close, around 3:10, I went for some SPY puts, just in case, things got really ugly into the close of business. Because I was like, I don't know, maybe these algos will just like rip this thing to shreds off of, that tax news. And I ended up stopping out of these for 1082. I'd paid 1099. I just saw like we're holding support into the close. And sort of like my posture here with things being this ambiguous is, we'll leave it off on this, but this isn't really an area where I'd be like, all right, I'm going gung-ho short here. It's bearish that we dropped back into this weekly value area, but also we're finding support at that same level. So like shorting into support is a very tough strategy. If you do it and you nail it, you're almost like getting lucky. It's in my experience, it's either better to short when you get like an area of overextension or when you break through support. So like, if somebody had shorted, and it's very easy to see in hindsight 2020, but say if somebody was like, all right, we broke into a value, I'm going to enter like a short position. That would have been like, okay, that makes sense. But here it's very tough. So I think going into the rest of the week, if we just start to break down and like, oh my gosh, we just broke this point of control and now we're breaking the value very low, that's where I'll be like, I'm just going to stop out of pretty much everything and just reassess. But until we do that, I'm just going to stay with what I have. I'm not like up to my eyeballs with short-term options exposure. I just have like some long stock positions and then 1 or 2, longer-term calls. So yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with that. But I definitely think, if anybody's like, yeah, I know what's going to happen next from here, like it's very tough. When you're trading, you're dealing in uncertainties. And there are certain times when there's like really an edge. Like, oh my gosh, like the past couple days, I had a really nice sequence. Here, it's a little bit tougher. So I think like being a little bit lighter, not really being exposed too much with like very short-term options, I think definitely helpful here. And then really quick, so I don't want this video to be like an hour. Let's look through this options order flow. So yeah, we'll see. AMRS, this is a name that popped up earlier in the day. A lot of these names, just had nice breakouts and then they kind of fell apart. Yeah, you can see this one also fell apart. Las Vegas Sands, I have an earnings trade that expires tomorrow in Las Vegas Sands. This was good to see a call buyer, but that sell-off, really just gotten taken down. And what I noticed is a lot of the call activity is in FANG names. And real quick, the FANG names, they've all kind of come back into support. Or I don't want to say support, but what I mean is like they're not overbought anymore. They're kind of working off that overbought position. And, they have earnings next week. So I'm kind of wondering, like, are these names going to wake up at some point? What's going on here? Amazon as well. I'm no longer in this one, but Amazon, we're getting that sideways consolidation, but one thing that's also kind of weirding me out is we're starting to get the same exact look that we've gotten every single time Amazon has failed in the past, where you get a nice run of green candles and then all of a sudden you just start seeing these big red distributive candles, and then eventually, in the past we've just kind of like given up the ghost and like boom, we're right back down. We'll have to see. I'm sort of leaning on the side that like at least some of these names could actually break out nicely, but we'll see. Yeah, it looks like, could this be the beginning of the rollover? We'll have to see when this weekly candle closes. Yeah, I noticed a lot of the call activity was concentrated in those names in particular. And then if you look, not a whole lot of put activity. It's not like overwhelming here. So you can see some Amazon puts, SPY, Tesla, and then some GME puts. Kind of interesting. But that about does it for our options order flow. That also does it for this market recap video. Hope you all had an awesome trading day, and I will see you all tomorrow in the pre-market session.